Welcome to XR for Designer. Today we're going to learn about Maquette, how to start your first project, why use Maquette, and some of the benefit that Maquette can bring to your XR prototyping. This is the first episode of a 4-episode series for Intro to Prototype Spatial Design with Maquette. With today's tutorial, you will learn the background of XR prototyping, and you will learn how to set up your environment for your first Maquette project. We'll be covering 4 topics. First, the landscape of prototyping for spatial design. Second, what is Maquette, when to use it. Third, setting up for Maquette. And fourth, intro to interfaces and tools in Maquette. Let's go to the first one, the landscape of prototyping for spatial design. What is prototyping for? When you're prototyping for VR and AR, we can generally separate the finish of your prototype to 3 tiers. You have low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity. Each tier focus on different results. So for the low fidelity, you want to test your core idea. And this level of prototyping does not necessarily require VR. You can do it with 2D screen, with paper, just to test the main idea. And you have the second tier, the mid fidelity. In the mid fidelity, you want to bring things in VR. You want to test the core information. You want to test high-level visual design. For example, where things are, how big are they, how close to the user. And you want to have some basic interaction thoughts. For example, will it be ray base, touch, or grasp? And at last, we have high-fidelity prototyping. In this kind of prototype, you want to build your prototype to test for a specific goal. For example, is the button too big? Will this interaction engage people? Every prototype has a very specific goal for you to test. You also want to focus on ergonomic details. You don't want people to feel dizzy. You don't want people to feel they can't reach stuff in your prototype. All these details has to be considered. And also in the high fidelity prototype, you want to have detailed visual and interactions closest to the final product that you can put in front of a user and test it to see how they like it. Here are some examples of different tiers. In this picture, you have the low fidelity VR prototype where you have foam core, little paper, and you have a very, very simple controller in your hand that is made by foam core and paper. With this, you can test the spatial relationship, input method, and just have a very quick iteration process. Here is another example of my prototype in low fidelity.
Hi, welcome to Focus. Here you can find yourself your own space to concentrate your mind and to be separated from the world. You can have uninterrupted sessions to think about your own things. Before we start, I want to make sure that you have your phone on do not disturb mode, so some app notification.
I'll pause here. So for this prototype, what I did was basically put images in 3D spaces and lay out what I want to tell the user. It's very simple. There's no interaction. There's no fancy visual design. It's just what the app is about. Later on, we have the mid fidelity. This is another prototype that I made showcasing the visual layouts of the app. Still, there's no interaction and the visual design is not finalized. In here, I wanted to test if all the components necessary are put there. Do the user feel like they have enough content or the necessary content to engage with? These are just basic PNGs that I put in 3D space as well, but laid out in the 3D way. And moving on, we have high fidelity prototype.
We also found that everybody really likes throwing things in VR. Gestural input is a very powerful concept.
Here is a prototype collection from Google Daydream team showing various input method and interactions with controllers. Even the graphic is really simple. not complicated and not really finished in terms of lighting, textures, and stuff, you can see the input, the detailed interaction is really polished. So in this way, we can call it a high fidelity prototype. You can actually get this prototype out, put it in the hands of user, and have them play with it. Here is another high fidelity prototype. This is made by Ramotion for Firefox. This is high fidelity because the visual style and also the animation is really polished and complex, very close to the final product. So in this way, this is a high fidelity prototype. When you are making different fidelity prototypes, here are tools right now available for you to use. And we can see that different tools is capable of making different tiers of prototype. Starting from paper, you can use that to do very simple low fidelity prototype to test your ideas, which is the same for 2D tools. And also, you have tilt brush for sketching in 3D and just laying out stuff in a three-dimensional environment. Moving on, you have A-frame for web-based VR prototyping. This is useful for putting images into a 3D space just to test the space, the layout, the scale. Moving on, you have Sketchbox. Sketchbox is a maquette-alike VR prototyping tool with multi-scenes, object input, output, and editing features. You can use that for low fidelity and mid fidelity prototype. Maquette, which is the tool we're using today, is a little bit more advanced since you have more precise object control in terms of their scale, color, position. You can use that to build really all tiers of prototype from low to high. You can have really polished visual style if you want to put time in it, and you can have very long flows of interactions that you want to showcase. Moving on, you have more complex tools that is closer to programming tools and game engines. First, you have Unity XR Editor, which has the same kind of interaction as Maquette, but you're actually building a game program. And then the last two is Unity and Unreal, which combines which is basically just a game engine. You put your assets there, write program, and have it running as a VR app. The next topic would be what is Maquette, when to use it. Maquette is a VR spatial design prototyping tool that is built and really can be used well for mid-fidelity prototypes. There are three core benefits when it comes to using Maquette compared to any other things. You have fluent control, fluent process, and fluent assets pipeline. All these will save you dramatic amount of time when it comes to prototyping and also make you think faster, think more, think differently. We'll go cover each one with videos. When we are talking about fluent control, the first point is fluent editing. We're using the default Maquette sample scene as an example. So here you can see it's really easy to grab anything from its position. You can just hold it and then use the joystick to resize it, and you can see the size. Also, you can have this attached to any surface if you want as a snapping object, which makes precise manipulation really, really easy. If you're not happy with it, you can always undo. The second point of fluent control is intuitive interaction. So in Maquette, you have a lot of ways to access your tools. For example, using the tooltip here, you can just use those 8 tools by hovering your cursor to that place, which makes it really, really fast. The third part of fluent control is precise manipulation. So in Maquette, we have a tool called the Gizmo, which is very close to the 3D software that you used to use in 2D interfaces. So here, you can just select it, press to activate Gizmo, and then there you have it. You can move the object along a certain axis, rotate it by a certain degree, even duplicate it along the axis. So that's Fluent Control. This separates Maquette from all the other 3D prototype tool in VR because the Fluent Control. To recap, Fluent Control means really fast ways of editing, moving around the scene. Compared to 2D softwares, uh, editing 3D content in 3D is just so much natural and easier for you to locate where you want to put stuff at. So you have fast editing, intuitive interaction, precise manipulation. That's Fluent Control. The second benefit of using Maquette is Fluent Process. In Maquette, you have a button library of assets you can just drag and drop into the scene. You have the very simple shapes and forms, and you have the little bit more complex shapes. So you can drag it out, reshape it, duplicate, and you can create a more complex object just by using those simple shapes. The second point of Fluent Process is in Maquette, it's really easy to set up multi-scene prototype. So in here, we have one scene. Just pressing this plus will create an identical scene. Using this, you can create walkthrough prototypes. For example, we can say by pressing this plus button or this search button, the text will go to the right. So in the next scene, we'll just move it to the right. And then using the joysticks, you'll see how that works. So in the first scene, we press, and then boom, it moves. The third benefit of Fluent Process is it's really easy to set up a presentation. So in Maquette, you have a head camera that you can record what you're looking at. You have a handheld camera that you can hold as a sort of like a movie camera. Also, on the computer, you can set up how other people view it. It can be a default resolution, high resolution. People can even navigate on their own while you are having a VR view. So in this example, the people controlling keyboard and mouse can just fly around and see things on their own. Okay. To recap, Fluent Process includes a button library for you to use and build more complex assets. You can have Fluent multi-scene building capability, and it's really easy to set up presentations for your prototype. The final benefit is Fluent Assets Pipeline. The third benefit of using Maquette is Fluent Asset Pipeline. So in Maquette, you can easily use external assets. You can import it to your folder to use it in your scene, or you can use Google Poly. For example, we can use this astronaut really fast coming from Google Poly. You can see it loads pretty fast, and you can even have it as an editable object that you can change the color of it. So here, astronaut will change to a pure color object. The second part of Assets Pipeline is that you can really easily copy, paste, and reuse your components. For example, this group over here, just select it and use your grip to hold it, and then press trigger, you will just stamp it all over your scene. It's really fast to copy any components. If you want to reuse it in your second or third scene, what you have to do is just go to the clone panel, grab it, put it in your clipboard, create a new scene, and you can drag this assets right into your scene, which is just amazing. This speeds up the workflow dramatically. And the final point, when it comes to exporting assets, Maquette can export your assets in a really good way to game engines or 3D software as you want them to be. So if you group them, click export, you'll have all kinds of options. You'll have FBX, TLTF, and TLB. The grouped object will export it with the texture, with the image, and it will also be grouped as you group them in Maquette. So it's really easy to work with when you have them out. That's the benefit of using Maquette. And the third topic, we're going to cover how to set up Maquette. To set up Maquette, first of all, you need to have a PC. So Maquette is a VR program that runs on Windows-based computers. You need to have a PC to run the application. And then you need to have one of those devices. So either you can have Oculus, HTC Vive, or Windows MR. In my tutorials, all the tutorials will be based on Oculus controllers. Once you have your PC set up and your VR set up, go ahead to Steam. You should download the Steam client, and then once you download it, open up Steam client, search Microsoft Maquette, and you'll find the app. I have already downloaded the app, so here is just play the game. So if you haven't, here should be download or start playing. Press that button, you'll be able to get into Maquette. Once you have it downloaded, go to your library, and then you'll have it here. Tap on it, press play in VR. This will launch Steam VR. Steam VR will launch first, and then Maquette will open, and you should be able to get into Maquette. The final point is Intro to Interfaces and Tools in Maquette. Since you have your Maquette set up, here are basic ways you can navigate and use the tools provided by Maquette. When you first open up the app, you will see an array of spotlight that you can watch, and there are official tutorials that teach you how to use the tools. You can also create a new project by clicking this blue button here, or recenter viewer position, which will center the menu to in front of you. If you create some projects, you'll see the recent projects here, and if you have a different dominant hand, you can swap handness from here. I use right hand, so I will just swap back. If you create a new project, you will have a blank space. So in this space, you have this ground surface as a reference plane. The blue circle here indicates your VR headset recognition area. And here you have a little viewer that represents the viewing position. So if you click on this ball here, you'll get into that viewer position for the camera. So in VR, how you navigate is there are multiple ways for you to navigate through the scene. One way, the fastest way, is to hold both grips, and then you can move your arm to your side. This way you will zoom in, and this way you will zoom out. I'll create a box to give you a size reference. Let's create a blue box in front of the scene. It's this big, so if you hold both grips, you will see it become smaller, meaning that your camera is getting bigger. If you do this, you'll see you're getting closer, meaning that your camera is getting slower. You're getting closer to the object. When you hold both triggers, both grips, this navigation is called swim. You can hold them and move your arm. Don't move them to your side, but move them backwards and forward. This way, you'll drag your scene, and you can navigate just like you're swimming. Other ways that you can do to navigate the scene is by pressing the grip on right hand, and then you'll have this ring for you to teleport in. So this sort of have a snap feeling. So if it's green, press and you'll teleport to that place. You can also teleport to any of the blue rings. So right now a teleport to behind the blue box. How do we turn back? So when you're here, you just use this joystick to turn. There you go. I push the joystick to right 3 times, so I think I rotate 90 degrees or, yeah, 90 degrees. And then you can use the front and back to move forward and backward. So this is basic navigation. And then if you look at your hand, on your left hand, you have your tool panel hand, and on your right hand, you have the drawing or the manipulation hand. Most of the time, how you interact with the UI is that you use the laser beam from your right hand to your left hand, and you use the trigger to control. So let's say I want to add a box into the scene. I point this laser to the box, hit the trigger, and then I'll have it. There you go. And you can use this method to interact with other options in the menu. So this is the pen, eraser, clone, eyedropper, recolor, text, camera. These are other options. So this is assets, this is gizmo, this is the scene panel where you use to access different scenes. And this is your environment. You use this to change your environment setting, change color, change fog, change the light intensity. And these are some advanced options. Later on, I think they will have the script feature. You also have your project list where you can save as or open projects. And these are the settings. We'll be talking about them later in the series. And here you have your color palette. You can store color. For example, I'll create a purple, and then I just press here, and you'll store this purple. When other people open the project, they'll see this saved color palette as somehow like a color library. You will also have precise control of the color over here. Now, let's talk about tools in Maquette. By pressing the lower function button on your right hand, you'll be able to access a tool palette where you can just hold your controller closer to use that as your current tool. So we have 8 tools right now. We'll go through them one by one. So the first one is select. You use this one to select object, group object, move object. And you have clone. You use this to clone a certain area of objects. This is the brush. You use this to draw lines. Either it's a straight line or curved line. This is razor. You use this to delete object in your scene. This is paint bucket. You use to recolor objects. This is eyedropper. You use it to get color. This is text. You edit to add text. And this is camera. You use it to capture your prototype. So how you would use those tooltips is by holding the button and move closer to them. If you remember the sequence of the tools and get really used to it, you don't even have to look them, and you'll be able to use them really, really quick. So for example, in here, I would like to create a text saying that this is a blue box. What I would do, rather than go to here and press this, which is another way you can do so, I would just open the tooltip, hold it close to here, and then boom, I have a text box. I'll just type this is blue box. That'll change the color to black. Seems like the color is not working. So what we have to do is change our tool to the paint bucket, select it, and there you go. Black. You can try other tools on your own, but this is like a really fast way to access tools. Shit. All right. And that's our first episode, Intro to Spatial Design with Maquette. You can access all the presentations from this website, app.ludas.1/maquette01. Thank you for coming. That's it.